Well, here we are, another year down, another Middle-earth Throne of Skulls tournament sadly drawn to a close. What a weekend it was. I mean, what can I say? I know whenever I do one of these reviews and wrap-ups about any kind of Middle-earth tournament or One World, I'm constantly and consistently gushing about this community, the event, the level of hobby, absolutely everything up there. And it's just because it's absolutely phenomenal. And, this weekend has been absolutely no exception. But yes, last weekend, finally drawn to a close. The long, weary trip back home to Surrey and the post-tournament blues have well and truly set in. But conversely to that, the hobby juices are flowing in full force. So 6 of one, half dozen of another, right? As always, as I've said already, and I'm going to continue to say for the video, the event was absolutely phenomenal, run amazingly well. It was just so lovely to be able to be up there, see a load of old faces, old friends, and meet up with people we haven't seen for a good long while. Some old friends that I personally haven't seen for a very long time. And as always, go up there and make new friends because everyone's up there to enjoy the spirit of the game and play the game in the way it's meant to be played. And it's just such a great vibe up there. Everyone's always super welcoming, super chatty, and everyone's just up there because we all are part of this wonderful, amazing community who just loves this hobby so much. And again, as I've said before, and I will continue to say because it is the truest thing I can possibly say, the fact that I'm privileged enough to be a small part of this wonderful community is the best thing, and I hold it truly dear to my heart. It's so wonderful to be able to come up and see everyone for 2 days of just rolling dice and chatting hobby and seeing what everyone's been working on. I mean, on my days, every year, at every tournament, the level of hobby gets higher and higher and higher and higher and higher. The standard and the work that everyone puts into their models. And again, this year's no exception. But every year, everyone comes back and they've surpassed that bar and they've smashed it out of the park. There was some amazing hobby on display all round today from everyone I saw. I think everyone should be super proud of all the models they brought this weekend because everything I saw was just absolutely phenomenal. So well done, everybody, for your amazing display of hobby. It's wonderful to see everyone just pouring all their love and creativity into this hobby that we all love. So as everyone is aware, I was taking great company this weekend, and if you want to see our list, you can check out our pre-Throne of Skulls video. But just very quickly, it was the 3 hunters with the twins, Eldon and Elra, Halbrad and Abana, and a smattering of rangers. So how did we do at the weekend? So we will give you a rundown of all of our games going on into the video. So it's going to be 40-50 minutes of me gushing about all 5 of my wonderful opponents. But hey, that's what you're here for. So, but ultimately we did win 3 games and we lost 2, which ultimately was much better than I thought we were going to do. I went up there with not the intent, but with the hope to, win a game, because I'd never go to these things to win games. I literally am of the opinion of I don't care if I lose all 5 of my games, as long as I've had fun, and more importantly, my opponent has had fun, and they've really enjoyed the game, and I've given them the best game that they could possibly want, and I could possibly give them. And as far as I'm concerned, that's the best result I could possibly get from a game. Winning, losing, doesn't matter to me. But thoroughly enjoyed each and every one of them, and it was just so lovely to be up there and just immerse myself again in the games and the hobby and all the hobby on display, and everyone who was up there and the fancy dress costumes and all the vibes and all the chat, and I mean just everything was just phenomenal. It really was, and it always is. But before we go into the games, I do just need to say as well, I'm truly thankful for everyone who was there, who just made the weekend amazing. Everyone I talked to, everyone who we hung out with, old friends, new friends, everyone who was there for the weekend made this weekend just the most special one of the most special weekends at Throne of Skulls that I can remember for a long time. And each one gets better and better than the last one. And genuinely, post-tournament blues are a thing. I want to be going up again next weekend and just reliving the same weekend as often as I can, because I generally miss it when it's over. I really do. We're going to go into our roundup and review of all 5 games and all 5 of my wonderful opponents across the weekend, and give you as much as we can of a comprehensive rundown of how each one of those played out. So, game 1 saw us pit against Alexander Frowley and his amazing Throne of Skulls force featured around the assault on Ravenhill, and we were playing Breakthrough. Alex's army was super cool. As you can see here from the pictures, we had Thorin, Dwalin, Feely, Keely all riding goats. I'm super jealous of any time I see somebody who's managed to do these conversions, because it's always something I've really wanted to do, but I've never ever been able to get my head around doing it. And I mean, converting isn't my wheelhouse, but yeah, these look super cool. Really good fun to have on the tabletop, and I'm always super envious of anyone who can pull that off. We had Legolas and Tauriel. Legolas was mounted on a horse, but a really simple and effective conversion from the films. He is currently astride a warbat, as he was in the Hobbit film, which just captures that moment perfectly. Really, really effective, really cool. We have Bilbo Baggins, and then we had a host of Iron Hills dwarves with spears, crossbows, and a banner bearer. This army was super cool, super awesome to see all these really cool conversions on the tabletop, and also super themey as well. And that's, you know, the spirit of Throne of Skulls, isn't it? Like, theme, I mean, you guys know me by now, like, theme is key. Like, I will trump theme over anything. So it was really cool to have this as my game one. Breakthrough, for those who aren't familiar, we have 4 objectives on the board, 1 in each of our deployment areas and 2 on the centre line. And effectively what you need to do is capture the objectives on the centre line and push through to capture the one on your opponent's half. So during our Road to Throne of Skulls videos, I noted down that there were 2 very important things that the Grey Company tend to struggle with. One of them is spreading out, and one of them is using all their might super early and then relying on dice rolls. So with these 2 things in mind, what was the first 2 things we managed to do? We managed to spend a host of might points in the first couple of turns to push through Wound's early doors. And then within 2-3 turns, the Grey Company was everywhere. We had rangers on the left with Aragorn and 1 twin. We had a twin and a couple of rangers on the right. Legolas holding the middle with a couple of bowmen. They were all over the place and they suffered as a result. Turn 1, originally when we started rolling, thought maybe this might not be so bad, because in turn 1, this is where the burning of might points came in. We saw 4 Iron Hills dwarves at defense 8, the big ones with the shields, got dropped to strength 2 bows. So with a ranger, especially if it's moved as well, you're looking at 4s to hit, 6s and 4s to carry through that wound. 4 rangers managed to push through wounds on poor dwarfs in this exchange, which was more than I thought they were going to do all game, to be brutally honest. That saw the bat riding Legolas get slightly concerned and decided to dart from cover to cover all game, as there was one particular thorough through where there was Legolas and 5 rangers standing there. And had the other Legolas been out in the open, we would have had a mighty shoot-off between 2 Legoli, which is the official plural for Legolas, and I've decided that now, Legoli. It was quite a quid pro quo game. Something would happen one side, and then the other person would do something the other side, which is really cool because it was super swingy, and there was no, for most of the game, there was no clear way the game was going to go. And those are great games because it makes you really want to fight to the end and see what happens and see how the game goes, and you really get into the spirit of fighting, and every combat matters. It was brilliant. Goats as well, they are ridiculous. I'm going to be buying some of those bad boys. That 5+ knockdown was invaluable to Alex. Knocked down a good few of the Grey Company big hitty heroes, and obviously then they're on the back foot to try and get back up and then win the fight and then carry on punching through lines. I can't remember if it was Thorin or Keely. I think it was Keely who managed to charge a goat into Aragorn, knock him down, and then like this goat just went to town on Aragorn. I think he lost all 3 fate in the first round of combat, and then the second ensuing round of combat, he managed to then get back up, which was fortunate, at which point Thorin then comes in, knocks him back on the ground, saw the captain of the Rangers dead fairly early on in the game, actually, which was huge for Alex. That was really well played, really well done. Yeah, that knockdown is so brutal, especially when you couple it with big hitty heroes just swinging. This is where I get into the quid pro quo side of things. So Aragorn died fairly early on, and then the twin that was with Aragorn, I think it was Elrond here, turns around to Keely and goes, "Oi, I'm having you." And then Keely went down as a result of that, who was, you know, the one that took Aragorn down. But yeah, and just trying to shift these dwarves was a lot harder than I think I ever really anticipate. I always forget just how resilient and how tough Iron Hills dwarves are, which is probably why you don't get that many, but they make their points back because they are just super hard to put down. Because the Rangers rely on their fight value and their 2 attacks to push through, but with Iron Hills you've got the same fight value, the same strength, and obviously they've all got spears, majority of them got spears, so they're getting the 2 attacks to match the Rangers, at which point their might point, if they roll a 6, is only so much good. You know, it's not very helpful to push that fight through, and then it's 6s to wound. So it was one of the very hard counters to a Grey Company army, because they'll just fall down to anything that they can't cut through initially to weaken the numbers down. The heroes were used really well. I think Dwalin didn't get into combat for a good few turns because he was, again, doing the same thing with Legolas. He was darting to avoid the bowfire, but darting closer and closer with sacrificial dwarves in the way. But you know, eventually he got into Legolas and hewed the elf's head off his shoulders, Not before one of the twins managed to roll 3 wounds in one fateful combat against Tariel, which was unexpected, but then Tariel did the magic elf Tariel thing and saved all 3. So she was back on her feet again. One poor ranger spent 4 or 5 turns in combat with one Iron Hills dwarf, and we left them alone. We let them do their thing. And the ranger eventually manages to kill this Iron Hills dwarf and thinks, yes, we're going to go. We're going to run for the centre objective, one of the ones on the right, I think it was. At which point, another dwarf goes, oh, no, he's free. We're going to leap in and tie him up again. So but it was a super fun game. It was a great way to start the weekend. Ultimately ended in a major loss for Grey Company. So saw us plummeting back down those tables for round 2. But I tell you what, it was one of the best games I've had to start a tournament. It was so much fun, super swingy, and I love a swingy game because it really makes you. I mean, I don't like thinking at the best of times, but I tend to act on impulse. You know, I am that Joker meme of, do I look like a man with a plan? No, we just go for it. Because you have to with a Grey Company army to some degree. Because like the 4 dwarves dropping turn 1 to Bowfire, followed by Aragorn dying, followed by Keeley dying, followed by Thorin getting wounded by Legolas, and then Tariel, and then big things were happening all over the board. There was no way you could tell what was going to happen before it actually happened. But yeah, Alex, your army looked phenomenal on tabletop. I love your conversions. I love the attention to detail. And you very kindly talked me through how you made them. So you never know, I might actually get around to doing them myself one day. Credit where credit's due. That will be down to you and everyone else I've picked the brains of this over the time I've been asking. But thank you for an amazing first game. Super themey, and I love theme. Theme is what I strive for the most. It was great to see. It's an army that I've toyed with doing myself as well, like the assault around Ravenhill, and I haven't quite been able to make it work. But I loved it. It was super fun to play. Super great game. An amazing way to start 5 incredible games of Middle Earth. So thank you so much. I really hope we get a chance to roll dice again sometime soon. Grey Company, their revenge, and you never know. Next round of skulls, these dwarves might go down. I've got a plan. You never know. But Alex, amazing first game. Thank you so much. And I cannot wait till we get to roll dice again at a future event. So Grey Company, licking their wounds after game 1, found themselves pit against Adam Moss and his huge host of Gondor awesomeness. Now, I'm a big fan of any kind of Gondor, you know me, Mr. Ministereth. It was great to see a proper themey and really cool looking Gondor force on the tabletop. The scenario was Fog of War, which we'll go into in a minute, but here is a picture of Adam's army. Now, anyone who strives to take Denethor as their leader for their army, 100% with you there, because I will take Denethor any day, because it is, again, themey, and that's the point. And it was so cool to see someone else. It's like, yeah, Denethor's here. He's not the greatest, but we're going to run it, because why not? You can see where the theme came in Adam's army, because we've got Denethor leading a host of Minister of Warriors. We have Faramir leading a combination of warriors and rangers. And we have Boromir of the White Tower, so it was Denethor and his 2 sons, which was super cool to see on the tabletop. Boromir was leading a host of Minister of Knights. We had Irolas with the Company of the Guard. I think there's a smattering of Citadel Guard and Fountain Court Guard. Beregond with the Citadel Guard Bowmen, and a Gondor Avenger Bolt Thrower. This is around about the 65 model mark, if I remember rightly. And, I'm 16 Rangers looking at 65 heavily armoured Gondorians. I'm thinking, this is going to be painful for the Rangers. But your army looked absolutely incredible. It's great to see a host of Gondor painted up. I'm jealous that you've got your Knights painted up, because I've got about 36 sitting in boxes that I have not got around to painting yet. So if anything, you've inspired me to get those out of boxes and get the cobblestones on the base and get them going. But really cool army, really themey. Super cool to see Gondor on the tabletop like this. Love the way you've gone for the 2 brothers and the father, and just kept it really, really pure Gondor, which is what we like to see. So Fog of War is one of those scenarios where you have to guess what your opponent's trying to score. So basically you have to nominate a hero to keep alive in your own army. You have to nominate one of your enemy heroes to kill, neither of which can be either force's leader. And you have to nominate a terrain piece on the other side of the board, for which you have to occupy, and by occupy have more models in than the opponent. So I felt really bad for Adam at the start of the game, because technically every model in the Grey Company army is a hero. So Adam had the choice of 16 models he could have picked from. And that's where the huge game of cat and mouse came in, because I don't know what ranger he's gone for. So in a way it makes his life quite easy, because rangers aren't hard to put down, and you'd rather pick a ranger than pick a twin or Gimli or someone like that. But obviously, if he goes for a ranger, then that means that the 6 heroes can just go carte blanche and just carve up whatever's in their way to stop it happening. But also, conversely, I don't know what ranger he's picked because there was 10 to pick from. And that means that I can't run all 10 rangers in. So I've got to be super careful and kind of judge what combats rangers can go into. Can they win that fight? Are they going to lose? Are they going to die if they lose that combat? So it was, as much as it ended up being quite a mob in the middle of the board, it was a very intricate game in regard to what went where and when, which amazing plays. Yeah, it was a super, super fun game. You know, I certainly can't afford to just send the 6 heroes and all 10 rangers into this massive Gondorian blob that it became in the middle. There was so much armor plating everywhere. It was incredible. And Adam, you played this game incredibly well. Your army construction was awesome. The Boromir, the White Tower, giving the +1 bonus to the fight value of all the models. I can't remember what the range is for it, but that bonus to fight value means your Gondorian warriors are going toe to toe with my hard-hitting rangers, which then makes, you know, every decision I have to make in regard to rangers going into combat even harder, because you can go toe to toe with them. It's not just a case of I roll a 6 with a might or a 5 with a might point that they're going to beat that Gondorian. Boromir stayed fairly central, so he was the one that had to go sooner rather than later. And I don't know what it is, but ranger shooting has apparently been a really solid thing this entire tournament. So in the last game, they managed to kill 4 Iron Hills dwarves in turn 1. By the time poor Boromir got to combat in this game, he had lost his horse. I think he'd taken a wound and had lost all 3 of his fate points. Unfortunately, Boromir the White Tower seemed to want to go the same way that Boromir the Fellowship wanted to go, by just attracting all the arrows and taking them all in favour of the army not taking them. So that banner was like target priority. It had to go, because as soon as that banner went, the fight value advantage swings back to me, and then it's only the Citadel Guard and the Rangers, I think, that are forcing those roll-offs. It just means my Rangers can then just cut through and deal with the main warriors of Minas Tirith. The cavalry charge was something I was also pretty scared of. Not going to lie, you see Boromir and 10 knights thundering towards your defense 5 rangers, and you think, going to be a bad time here. We managed to drop 4 or 5 horses by the time they got into combat, and then unfortunately the knights didn't manage to follow through with many charges, so did eventually get picked off. They were kind of target priority after Boromir was either locked down or in combat, or was sufficiently weakened enough that he wasn't going to be much of a problem later on down the line. And again, Legolas and the other bows managing to pepper stuff on the wings just to make sure that the Gondorian blob didn't get too overwhelming for Grey Company. I think he managed to one-shot Faramir at one point, cause 3 wounds to poor Fazza. He managed to save one of the wounds on a fate point, but very nearly one-shot the younger brother. Boromir did eventually go down. Legolas did manage to take his 2nd wound off with a 2+ auto hit. I say auto hit because in my experience that auto hit very rarely hits. And then we got poor Boromir in the middle of everything, facing down Aragorn and Gimli with 1 wound, no fate, a fair accompaniment of might. So there was still a bit of toing and froing because everyone was striking and everyone was trying to push through that hit. But ultimately Boromir did unfortunately fall, at which point the fight values return to normal and the Rangers can start just doing what Rangers really do on foot with 2 attacks and a might point. Boromir did manage to kill Aragorn. It's 6 might points versus 3. Yes, Aragorn's got his 1-3-1, but if Boromir wins that fight, he can push 3 wounds through 2, if not 3 turns on average with all those might points he's got. So Boromir was the downfall of Aragorn, but it didn't take much longer for Gimli, I think it was, to swing in and take the final wound off Boromir. So again, tit for tat. You kill my king, I kill your flag bearer. The Gondor Avenger Bolt Thrower unfortunately didn't get many shots off across the game. So my goal was to kill Irolas, who came in, I think, one of the first few that came in, and unfortunately got taken down more or less straight away by Aragorn, because Andor wounded on 4 pluses and 1 fate point on Irolas. He's a great little hero, but even he's not good enough to stand up against Aragorn and Andor when he's gunning for him. I had to keep Bow Ranger 3 alive. Once the Rangers on Adam's side started getting into range to shoot, and the Citadel Guard came down on the right as well, on the right flank, and we're getting in range to fire their Strength 3 bows into my Defense 5 Rangers, it became very apparent that Ranger 3 should probably go and hide behind a wall. Still took me 3 turns to decide to do that, so I could very easily have I've cost myself a win there just by wanting that extra shot and not putting him behind cover, which any sane tactician would probably have done earlier than I did. And there was a middle woods that Gimli had to get into to secure the points for that, which, bearing in mind the sheer amount of Gondorians that were in the middle that we had to cut through, I'm surprised he did eventually get to it. I think it was the second to last turn, because this is a game where the game ends on a 1 or a 2 after breaking. And we had that extra couple of turns where Gimli was able to get in and secure that woods, but had that not happened, it would have been a different game entirely. Adam's goal was to keep Baragond alive, which he did. I didn't get much of a chance to go after Baragond because I just didn't have the resources to pour over to the right hand side and deal with the flooding of Citadel Guard coming down on that side. At the same time, he managed to capture his ruin that he had to keep, because that was where the Citadel Guard ended up. And I think he elected to try and kill Bow Ranger 2 or Spear Ranger 2. It was a Ranger 2, I remember that. I can't remember when it was. It did inadvertently get revealed at some point during the game. I can't remember when. And I'm not going to be that guy who, when it's inadvertently revealed, decides, oh, I'm going to hide my Ranger now because I know you're going for it. No, I carried on my game plan. That Ranger got straight back into combat as if I didn't even know. I'm certainly not in the mentality of trying to sneak points away from somebody because of an accident that happens during a game. No, that Ranger went straight back in, and whatever happened, happened. But I wanted to make sure that Adam had the chance to score all the points he got the chance to, and we let the game play out as it would have done normally without any decisions being made otherwise. Adam, you played an amazing game. It was super fun. It ended up, once like the initial kind of tactics had been dealt with and things were happening, it ended up just being, let's throw things into combat and see what happens. It was great fun. great fun. I really hope you enjoyed it. I hope you had a good game. I appreciate not as many Rangers died as I think you were hoping to get rid of. I can only apologise for that, but I hope that you enjoyed the game, and I can't wait to roll dice with you again. Your army looks so cool. Anyone who takes Steamy Gondor over Powerhouse Gondor gets all the love and respect and my vote. 100%, no question there. Thoroughly loved playing against Gondor. I don't very often get to do that. Usually I'm the one taking Gondor. I don't very often get to play against Gondor, so it's quite nice to see how different people construct their lists. It's given me some ideas for future lists for my Gondor. Ultimately ended up being the first major win to the Grey Company. But Adam, I'm going to say this for everybody because it's so true for everybody. Thank you for an amazing game 2. Again, just continuing the super awesomeness that was game 1 into my second game, and I had a thoroughly amazing time. I really hope you did as well. Again, cannot wait till we can roll dice again sometime soon. And you never know, I might bring my Gondor. We'll have a Gondor off next time. We'll have a Gondor off. How does that sound? Adam, again, thank you so much. Amazing game 2. You're a really good sport. Played the game in the spirit which was meant to be played, and I cannot wait to roll dice again. Thank you so much for an amazing game 2. So Grey Company, now on 1 loss and 1 win, find themselves for game 3 in the Destroy the Supply scenario, up against John Lamin and his awesome looking Moria Legendary Legion. I swear this entire tournament has been a game of how many army lists can we tease Tom with, because this is another one that I've really wanted to do for a long time and just haven't got around to doing yet. But as you can see from the picture here, we have the mighty Balrog at the head of the force, painted really well by John. I love the detail in all the horns, the fire, and the cracks around the fire particularly. We have a host of cave trolls, just as that 1-2 punch between the Balrog and another fight value 6 free attack brute. And we have a good host of Moria goblins, led by, I think it was 3 goblin captains, a handful of prowlers, and of course the Moria goblin drum. Now this Legion is so cool. The Balrog's got so many cool rules when it comes to this Legion. I can't remember them all off the top of my head, but having the drum battlefield wide, so you've got that banner that across the entire battlefield, not breaking while the Balrog is alive. It's a really solid Legion, and one that I'm desperately keen to try and make innings on at some point in my future. And now I haven't seen John since we were at the wedding of another joint friend who was in attendance at the tournament as well. But he played this game exceedingly well, knew exactly what all his stuff did, knew exactly where he was going and what his game plan was. And again, it's another game where the Grey Company excels if they're together and they've got use of all their might points. So what did we decide to do instead? We spread out and we spent all the might points. Destroy the supplies is a scenario which Grey Company aren't going to excel in. So for those who aren't familiar with Destroy the supplies, there are 3 markers on each side of the board, 12 inches on and 12 inches apart from the centre, and you have to be in base contact with one of the supplies on the opponent's half of the board without having been engaged in fighting or whatnot, at which point at the end of the turn you remove that supply and score points. And this is a scenario where it does not favour the Grey Company, because we don't spread out, especially given as we deploy as one warband. We can hold one objective pretty well, but unless we spread out to any great degree, we're kind of writing off the other 2, and that's effectively what happened. The Grey Company deployed on the right hand side after the I think the Balrog deployed first with his cave trolls. So I played the game of, I want to go troll hunting because that sounds like fun. So we deployed in line with the trolls and the Balrog with our entire army, and then obviously goblins were able to deploy further down the board, and they made a fairly solid beeline for the 2 objectives in the centre and on the left of mine, which, yeah, like, amazing game plan. Yeah, there's very little I could do to stop that, and without sacrificing the integrity of my army, I kind of decided, you know what, I'm going to write those off and we'll see what happens here. I was playing the game of how many big beasties can we kill by the end of the game. Just how good is the Grey Company against these big towering brutes. Again, Ranger bows, strength 2 bows, proving that they are the new hotness in Middle Earth, because I think by the time the Balrog saw combat, he had taken 1, if not 2, I think it might have only been 1, but 1 if not 2 wounds from strength 2 bows. How does that even happen? How does that even happen? It's a 6 followed by a 6 after you've rolled to hit. Some super lucky dice rolls from the Rangers in regard to shooting. They were putting all their shots into the Balrog, and as much as I could have used them to start thinning down the goblins running down the left-hand side, it was very much a game of, I want to see what we can do to the Balrog, I want to see how well we do against the Balrog, and I want to see how long it takes the Balrog to just immolate the force, because it just, in my head, seems super fun. So 2 of the trolls went down fairly quickly, and that's going to happen when you've got, you know, Aragorn, Gimli, the 2 twins, and Halbarad, all with access to strike. I think Aragorn managed to take down 1 on his Todd, and the second one fell to a twin in Gimli, I think it was. The third one took a little bit of time to get down, at which point the Balrog comes swinging in. The Balrog did manage to just completely rend and tear apart Aragorn, so now he's died twice in 3 games. Quite horrifically as well, once by a goat, once by a Balrog. I'm not sure which one is the better way to go, but that's all the future King of Gondor off the board, which was, I imagine, a massive relief for John at the time, because that means that's the only real consistent killing power or wounding power of the Balrog just gone. And obviously scoring the points for leader in this scenario as well, so, and yeah, just super well played. At which point, we then poured as much as we could. I think at one point we had the 2 twins, Gimli, Halbarad, and a couple of Rangers all just ganking the Balrog, trying to get into the Balrog. Thankfully, I'm not having to pass courage test for the Terrifying, because the 6-inch banner of Fearless from Halbarad helps mitigate that. So we're able to get all the attacks in that we wanted. And then it became a game of strikes, really. Who can match the Balrog's fight value of 10? There was a bit of back and forth. Wounds were exchanged both sides. We got the Balrog down to 6. And it was the last turn of combat. I'd used all my might points at this point. Right? I think I had a couple of Rangers and Legolas down the end, who were not influencing the Balrog combat whatsoever. But of the heroes in combat with the Balrog, we had 1 model with 1 might point left. And it was the last one to strike. And we managed to beat the Balrog, or match the Balrog's fight value, I should say. And the Elven Blade roll-off went in my favour. And because of the way I've managed to position the twins, he was trapped. So we got double dice with Gimli, Elladan, Elrahir, Halbarad, and I think it was 2 Rangers of the North, and we had to do 6 wounds to it, which we did manage to get, and the Balrog did unfortunately fall, and it's something I've never achieved before in a game. I've never managed to get a Balrog, so as far as I was concerned, I was happy. I was happy for the game to be a loss on victory points, but as far as I was concerned, I've made a milestone in my own gaming career. So the first time I've killed a Balrog in combat, I'm super happy. At which point I was able to then push past, and I managed to get one of the supplies on John's side. I think at that point he only had a couple of archers left between the main bulk of the force that was after the Balrog and the other objectives. We did manage to match 2 for 2 objectives. John, you made a super good effort to try and get the third one. We had Legolas in his little arena of death, as it turned out. Goblins were jumping over this wall to jump into the little square pen that Legolas had found himself in and was shooting from the entire game. And Legolas had made no effort whatsoever to deal with these goblins. He was every turn trying to take the 2+ shot into the Balrog just to chip another wound off. Like, I would have spent all 3 might points to do a wound if he'd rolled higher than a 1 at any point to wound. And after 3 or 4 turns of shooting, that's quite disappointing from Legolas. But every goblin that jumped into this little pen with Legolas, Legolas saw an end to. Like, every goblin that jumped in, Legolas hewed down. He let no goblin live in this little arena of death he managed to create for himself. And after seeing the Balrog nuke Aragorn, you know, I can imagine that does quite a lot for the fighting spirits of the other rangers and models in the army. It was super, super back and forth all game. Genuinely like another one of these nail-biting games where you just don't know. And I hadn't written the game off because I know what the limitations of my army are, but I was going into it thinking this is going to be super hard to pull anything over like a draw out of this, because this isn't the scenario Great Company do. It's the same with Reconnoiter and the big objective-based scenarios that cause you to spread out. It's not a scenario they excel at. And it was super back and forth, and in all honesty, it hung on the Balrog combat. If the Balrog had managed to push through all these heroes, or immolate a couple of more of them, and stop those wounds going through whilst he was trapped, and then falling eventually, completely different game. It hung on that one last might point. The other ones I've been so frivolous with, but that one last might point and that one combat saw a surprising win to the Grey Company. I think it was a minor win because it was very close. I think we both got points for leader. I think I only managed to pick, because we both got 2 suppliers in the end. And I think it was only pipped on the fact that I was able to break the Moria force, and obviously with the Balrog dead, they then count as broken. It's one of the Legendary Legion rules, I believe, if I remember rightly. And the Grey Company wasn't broken at that point. They weren't a million miles off, but they weren't broken because the goblins that were coming through on the left-hand side couldn't deal with Legolas and the few rangers that were there that hadn't been shooting, or that had been trying to hold them off a little bit. But it was a super, super fun game. I have no idea. The Grey Company had no right to put a win out of that. And I don't know how they managed to do it. But John, you played an amazing third game. Like, the game we had just rounded off a first day of absolutely phenomenal gaming. Your Legendary Legion was super cool to play against. I've definitely played against this Late Legion before, and it's gone completely the other way. It's a very strong Legendary Legion. Your army construction was very well done, very well thought out, and you played everything. You knew what everything did. You played everything really, really super well, and gave me a real brain scratcher. And genuinely, that's what we love about this hobby, right? Is that there's no clear winner. Even when you go into it thinking, probably not going to win this for X, Y, and Z reason, the game can just take a completely different track. But that's all part and parcel of the hobby we love, right? But no, seriously, to pull a minor win out of this game, and it wasn't an easy fought win. It was a very hard fought win. John played an incredible game. I cannot wait to roll dice with you again, John. It was the first earliest opportunity. We need to do that again, because you need to immolate some rangers now, right, and get your own back on them. So, but thank you for an amazing third game, for rounding off day one. Super fun, super enjoyable. You're a great opponent, great sport, and everything you did was well thought out, and you played the game to the best of your ability as well as you could. So John, thank you so much for an absolutely truly amazing game 3. I cannot wait to roll dice again in the future, at a future event, hopefully. And hopefully it won't be too long before we see you again. I know since the wedding, it's the last time I saw you, but hopefully it won't be so long before we catch up and hang out in the interim. But thank you again for a truly phenomenal game 3. So coming out of day 1, the Grey Company is sitting on somehow 2 wins and 1 loss. Going into day 2, game 4, into the Heirlooms of Ages Past scenario, which is another scenario that just doesn't work for the Grey Company, or I should say shouldn't work for the Grey Company, and I will explain why in a minute. But game 4 saw us pit up against Timothy Hickson and his Mordor army, his absolutely phenomenal looking Mordor army, and a very unique take on a Mordor army as well. As you can see here, we've got the leader, the Mouth of Sauron, with the Dark Marshal. We have Kardish the Firecaller leading a squad of orcs. We have all the Morgul stalkers in the world. I've never seen this quantity of Morgul stalkers in one force before, and it was awesome to see them on the tabletop. It was so cool to see these black robed figures just running across the battlefield to take on the Grey Company. And then we had some super cool orc trackers on wargs. I don't know if you can see from the photos, but these are all converted from metal orc trackers onto metal wargs. The time and care and attention put into these conversions was so super cool, and I genuinely felt bad for everyone that died in the game, because I thought these models deserve to be on the tabletop because they are flawless conversions and looked phenomenal on the board. So Tim, you should be super proud with how they came out. I know I gave you no end of compliments on the actual day, but they looked awesome. And yeah, they are really super striking on the tabletop. This is a really cool army, and a really nice unique one to play against. Certainly nothing like this that I've ever played against in the past. So we are Heirlooms of Ages Past, and if there's any example of a flawless game plan, because we talked it out extensively, a flawless game plan interrupted and undone just by dice rolls, then it was this game. So Heirlooms of Ages Past, you have 6 objectives on the board, 3 deployed by each player, and they can't be within 12 inches of another one, and 6 inches of a board edge. Now every model has the opportunity once per turn to pick up a relic or search an objective for a relic. If a model is in base contact with an objective, it can roll a dice. On a 6, they found the relic, all other objectives on the board disappear, there's only one relic. If 5 of them are cleared off and there's only one left, then that one is automatically the relic. And we're looking at Maelstrom as well. Now Maelstrom is the one thing that the Grey Company do quite well in, because they come on as one warband. There's none of this scattering of various warbands around the tabletop. You know, come on one board edge, we're all together, we've got the access to march, we run forward and we see what happens, right? So the Grey Company deployed in one corner, between 8 to 10 inches away from one of the objectives. It's the best thing we could do. It was worth a go. You know, you try and see if you can get it early doors, and you just hunker down in the corner. Was kind of my rough little game plan. I should stress as well, the game plan in question wasn't mine. I have no flawless game plan. Every one of my I don't really have a game plan. So just before you start thinking delusions of grandeur, Tom has a game plan. Nah, not a thing. Not a thing at all. At which point Tim then starts rolling for his warbands. I think a couple came on. I think the Orc Tracker warband came on. It was my choice, and I stuck them more or less next to the Grey Company, so they moved 10 inches on, try and intercept the objective I was going for. The Mouth of Sauron mited down his role so that I didn't have the control of where he came on, because the last thing he wanted to do was lose his leader early doors. So, as I said, we talked through Tim's flawless game plan through the game. His intention was to uncover the relic in front of the Grey Company and discount it as a relic, because it was the only one I really had a good shot of getting. And then at which point Tim's got the flexibility, he's got the movement on the wargs, he can outrun me so easily to go around and find where this other relic is while I'm dealing with bodies being thrown in the Grey Company's way. And then all he has to do is jump off his warg, pick up the relic that's left, and run off into a corner, and the game is won. Like, there's no way I can really stop that. The faithful Orc Tracker on his warg runs up to the objective, 8 to 10 inches in front of the Grey Company, jumps off his warg, rolls a 6 for the objective, which immediately becomes the relic. At which point we have one poor, terrified Orc Tracker staring down Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, Elladan, Elrohir, Halbarad, 10 Rangers, thinking, "Row." At which point, Tim, you had to adapt your game plan super quickly and super on the fly, because you had no intention of that actually being the relic. Managed to adapt his game plan to be like, okay, we're going to throw everything we can to interrupt the Grey Company's progression across this board and try and get this tracker out of the way. Under normal circumstances, a tracker moving at 6 inches, Grey Company spending 3 or 4 turns in their corner trying to cut through all the bodies that were just in their way, yeah, also really works. This poor Orc Tracker, for I think it was 3 turns, just could not move. Every roll that this tracker made to try and move with the relic, he rolled a 1, and just meant he was just like nullified by the majesty of the relic. So this tracker stayed in place for 3 turns, and every turn more Morgul Stalkers were being thrown in to disrupt the Grey Company. More Morgul Stalkers were just being cut down, because they can go toe to toe with the Ranger, because they're 2 attacks the Morgul Stalkers. Unfortunately, they miss out on the fight value, so the Rangers with the banner and the might points were able to win the vast majority of fights, and they're killing these Orc Trackers and these Orc Morgul Stalkers on 4s because they're strength 4. So Morgul Stalkers were falling left, right, and centre. More were being thrown forward to plug the gaps and hold up the Grey Company. All the while, this one Orc tracker was trying to get out of the way, but just couldn't. And I don't know how you were able to maintain any degree of sanity over this team. I really don't. It just goes to show how good a player you are and how amazing you are at adapting to things on the fly. Because it was if it was me, I would have I would have seriously struggled to maintain any kind of composure just with dice rolls, right? But that's the way the dice rolls go sometimes. So, but it very quickly became a way of just get away from the Rangers as quickly and as fast as you could. We had the Dark Marshal coming up, casting spells. We had Kardish at one point, throwing fireballs through a window into Halbarad, who managed to resist 2 of them with will points, and then the third one, just one fireball hit him square in the chest and did him for, I think it was a strength 6 or 7 hit. So we didn't enjoy that after that. The Grey Company, I think, moved a grand total of 3 or 4 inches across the first 5 or 6 turns of the game because there were just so many Morgul Stalkers and Orc trackers just trying to stop them moving. Tim was taking the approach of, I will throw all the bodies into these guys and I'll score my points when this Orc tracker eventually moves and I can get him away with the relic, and then we'll fall back with him and make it nigh on impossible for the Grey Company to get to him. Like, yeah, on paper, super solid plan, and like there would be nothing I could have done about it. Now, this goes on for 6, 7, 8 turns. We're ploughing through Stalkers. The Grey Company is not losing as many models as it probably has any right to at this point. Aragorn finally fights his way through the doorway of this little ruin, so he emerged onto the battlefield. I think we're on the 3rd line of defence at this point, ready for this Orc tracker. This Orc tracker had started moving by then as well, like it had started getting away. Get to the point where unfortunately the Mordor side was broken, and this Orc tracker, bearing in mind the sheer run of bad luck he's had, uncovering the relic, not moving for 3 turns, and finally getting away, decides, you know what, I'm done. He fails his courage test and flees the board, dropping the relic. And again, so another time that Tim has got to try and adapt on the fly and try and secure these points. Sends the Mouth of Sauron in to pick it up, and I'm thinking, okay, well, the only chance I really had is if it was another Stalker or another Orc that could have picked it up and might have fled. But the Mouth of Sauron's sitting there, courage 5, he's got a might point left. He's not going anywhere, you know, and at this point the Rangers have started funneling around the left-hand side of the ruins. We cleared out the Morgul Stalkers. I'm having to kill these models to get through and try and have a chance, and each time I'm bringing the game closer and closer to a finishing point, because the game ends when you get down to a quarter of your starting force. So I'm on the clock here, and I'm trying to punch through. These Rangers down the side are running, trying to catch up with the Mouth of Sauron, hoping for him to roll a 1 to not move so I can gain 6 inches on his movement. Very much a cat and mouse game. The last turn, I feel so bad talking about this, but the last turn of the game, the Mouth of Sauron rolls his courage test. Bear in mind he needs a 4 to guarantee him not running away, because he's got that might point, courage 5, not an issue. He needs a 4 to not run away. Rolls a 3, and I was in shock. I've never seen like the result of the game hinged on this one dice roll, and I felt so bad for you, Tim. I really did, because your game plan was flawless. Every time you had to adapt, you adapted really well. You were able to completely just kind of stop any progress that I was making through the game for me to actually make progress towards the objective. And for it to be undone by just one bad dice roll, I felt so bad for you. I really, really did. So then this relic's lying there in the middle of the board. No one's around to pick it up. The Morgul Stalkers are still trying to plug the gap. No one's around to come and get it. The Rangers are maybe 2 turns away from it. And that turn we killed enough of the Mordor army to bring it down to 25%. And we won, I think it was a 4-0 in total on just break points and the leader running away. The Grey Company did, against all odds, managed to pull a major win out of that, and they had absolutely no right to do so. And it just goes to show just how swingy and how back and forth these games can be, and how you can have like the perfect battle plan and it can just come undone. And it shows the caliber of the player who was able to adapt so flawlessly and change the game so flawlessly and change his plan to the point at which he can continue trying to score those points and play everything as well as you did, Tim. Tim, you played an amazing game. And you were like such a gentleman about everything that happened. Like, there is no greater example of just everything going wrong than your dice rolls in this game. Like, I felt absolutely awful writing down the scores for that, because I had absolutely no right. The Grey Company had no right to win that game. But Tim, you were a a true gentleman to play. You were absolutely one of the most genuine, lovely people I've had the privilege of playing. And like, we've seen each other at events before. I remember, I think you took an entire Warg Rider army at one point. Was it 70 something Warg Riders? Which was just amazing to see what you come up with and what you bring to these tournaments. You don't bring the conventional list, which is what I really love. You bring like the stuff that just looks cool, and you spend time over converting and painting. I love the way your armies look every time I see you at an event. And you're someone I've wanted to play for a good long while, and I'm really, really super glad that we finally got the chance to play a game at this event. I thoroughly look forward to the next time we get to play, because you were just such a lovely man, a lovely guy to play against, and genuinely gave me the best start to day 2 that I could have hoped for. Especially given the fact that I was flagging after the night before. You know, we were a little bit worse for wear. There was a little bit of the pubbage quiz drinking, you know, and didn't go to bed till like 3 o'clock, so I wasn't in the best. I think I even told you at the beginning of the game multiple times, like, don't expect great things from me. I'm going to run forward and hit orcs with my swords, and then I'm probably going to fall over. So and that just made me feel even worse, because I went into that with not much of a plan, because you don't have much of a plan when you're taking 16 models in one warband in this kind of scenario. And again, the Grey Company had no right to win, but you played an amazing game. I enjoyed every moment of our game, like so much. Thank you so incredibly much for an amazing, phenomenal game for this event. I, again, cannot wait till we get the chance to have another tabletop scuffle at future events. Tim, thank you so much. So we come to it at last, the last game out of what have already been 4 amazing games. These games are always over too quickly. The event always flies past quicker than I ever want it to. But we finally find ourselves round 5, and it's Contest of Champions, and we find ourselves pit against Ben Davies' Angmar army. Now you think Grey Company, and you think, oh, our leader's Aragorn. You think Contest of Champions, that's an easy win for Aragorn, right? 5 value 6, 3 points of might, a 3 point of might every turn, and a wounding on 4s. Piece of cake, walk in the park. You could not be further from the truth. Ben's Angmar army was a sight to behold on the tabletop. He had the Witch King of Angmar. As far as I can remember, he was kitted out with the full accompaniment of Might, Will and Fate, and obviously had the Crown of Morgul, mounted on the ferocious Fellbeast. We have Gullivar the Terror, who is a model I've always struggled to deal with in the past. A super solid secondary beat stick there. 3 Barrow Wights, a smattering of Dead Marsh Spectres, a couple of Orc Warg Riders, and then just a whole host of Angmar Orcs ready to take on my lowly 16 model Grey Company army. It was a super well constructed army, very tactically efficient, and it had one job for this scenario, and it did that job exceedingly well, especially in the hands of a great gamer like Ben, who was able to apply pressure where pressure needed to be applied, and knew the ins and outs of his army and what his limitations were and how to run it, and played a super amazing game for the last scenario. So obviously in this scenario, the Witch King's trying to score kills, Aragorn's trying to score kills. On the face of it, should be a fairly whitewash for Aragorn, in favour of Aragorn. But this, I think, if there's any army which was like the perfect counter to Aragorn and the Grey Company in this scenario, it's the army Ben brought for this this round. Because with 3 Barrow Wights and the Witch King, it's pretty much guaranteeing to shut down at least 1, if not 2, maybe even more heroes per turn. You've got 3 sources of paralyze there. You've got the Witch King with his 20 odd will points, casting Immobilize and shutting down heroes there, followed up with the 1-2 punch of Gullivar and just hordes of Orc warriors swarming in. Ended up being a lot harder to accomplish anything for the Grey Company than I think anticipated it being. Aragorn spent after his incredible performance against all the Morgul stalkers and trackers and just hewing them down left, right, and centre in the previous game. Aragorn spent the first half of the game snoozing because of the Barrow Wights, and then spent the second half of the game dead. That's how the King's last game went for him. 3 Barrow Wights with three sources of paralyze. You forget just how good Barrow Wights are for 50 points on a 4+, and then that model is knocked prone, cannot even roll to win the fight, just gets automatically hit. But having to commit more models to try and succeed that anti-paralyze roll in the return, it's not something I can do with a 16 model army. Yeah, it was super hard to deal with. Initially, Aragorn ran into the Orcs. whereupon he then did obviously get paralysed. The Witch King flew over the back of I think the Witch King and Gulliver flew over the back of the army. The Witch King flying into Legolas because he's a nice defense fire, fairly squishy kill. First round of combat, Legolas manages to strike up, beat the Witch King and wound him, at which point the Witch King kind of sits there and goes, ooh, this might have been a mistake. Gulliver did Gulliver things. I was able to keep him at bay for a little bit just by being able to feed like one ranger at a time to Gulliver, just to keep him like a little bit more out of the way. Obviously that's got a finite end, and 2 or 3 rangers in, I realise that's probably not the most useful way to use these rangers in this scenario, especially considering Aragorn is currently on the floor being kicked in the head by orcs. But yeah, so that put pressure on the Witch King initially, and I think made Ben like sweat just a little bit, because I think he expected the Witch King to fly in and tear Legolas asunder, which of course you would normally expect because it's a Witch King on Fellbeast, right? But Legolas being able to win that roll off with the Elvish Blade and then just kind of go step step, and because the game is over once one of the leaders is dead, right? Either Aragorn or the Witch King dies, the game is over in favour of the other person. So I think I made you sweat a little bit there, Ben. I think that was the first point at which you kind of thought, ooh, easy, Chewie, you know, let's have a think about this. The twins and Gimli couldn't do anything for it. If they couldn't win the fight, then they at least certainly couldn't wound anything for the majority of the game. I think I'd burn out all the luck that the twins and Gimli have been having all through the rest of the last 4 games. Every now and then an orc would go down, but nothing of any consequence. The Rangers, conversely, oh my days, I have never seen, at this point, 7, 8 Rangers do so well against what was 40 odd orcs plus accompaniments. Every single combat was either a 5 and then mited up to a 6, a natural 6 rolled, or we lost the fight and Halberd's banner managed to pull a 6 out of the ether. So more or less every single combat went to the Rangers, and I felt really bad because there was nothing you could do about this at all, Ben. And like you dealt with it super well, because under normal circumstances I can understand somebody getting, you know, super like not salty, but like I can understand that being super frustrating for somebody playing against. But you were a gentleman throughout. You were a really good sport throughout. Didn't let it impact on the game in any way, shape, or form. So I'm really sorry that those combats went those way. Ultimately had no real effect on the game at all once Aragorn was dead, but also I can super understand how frustrating it would be, and again for like Tim as well in the previous game, because Rangers were just carving for everything there as well. But you know, both of you dealt with it super well and were really good sports about it, and didn't let it infringe on the enjoyment of the game for me and for you as well. Like, so I'm really glad that it didn't ruin anything, and I'm super sorry. Sometimes just the way the dice go, right? But it doesn't make it any better, does it? So orcs are falling left, right and centre to Rangers. Legolas and a Ranger did eventually manage to pull 4 wounds onto Gulliver. He's a 5 wound model. So we managed to get 4 wounds on Gulliver in 1 round of combat. Could we get that last one off him? Could we? Heck, not a chance. He's 1 attack, 1 wound away from dying. At this point, Legolas goes down to the Witch King, swallowing him whole. The Witch King's got his 3 kills, so then decides, you know what, now my time is not here to be in the game. So he flies away quite rightly and sits by the building and protects himself. Like, cannot fault the tactics there. But we could not strip this last wound off of Gulliver. It's just not on the cards in any way, shape or form. And not for lack of trying, but by the time the game ended, Gulliver got back up to 4 wounds, 4 attacks, and just was not going down. So Gulliver remains a thorn in my side for a future game because he's just such a beast. Stood now. I can deal with a Balrog apparently. Can't deal with Gulliver in the Angmar army. It's not a thing. There was one particular turn where I think both Aragorn and Legolas were paralysed, and you know, quite rightly, you know, sitting there thinking, cool, 2 of the big hitty Fight Ready 6 heroes are on the floor. Can't do anything, and we'll just pick them off at leisure. Both of their paralysed rolls, they both got a 6 and stood back up, and I think again that made you sweat a little bit there, Ben. Like your army was super well constructed to be able to deal with an army like mine, but I like to think I made you work for it a little bit, and I definitely think I made you sweat once or twice. But it was a super well played game. Ben, you played everything really well. Like your army did what it did super well and was like the perfect counter to my army, and just the way you played it was incredible. And I like to think I gave you a game, even though once Aragorn was dead, it was very much a case of the game is Ben's. But we played it out because we had Halbarad the Undying. So it then became a game, once we kind of worked out that, yeah, okay, fine, I I can score some points back for breaking X, Y, and Z, but I can't win this. It's just by what margin do we lose this? After that, it became a game of can Ben kill Halbarad? To which the answer was yes on the last turn of the game, but every single combat, Halbarad would not go down. I think at one point he even had Gulliver on him, and Halbarad just kind of goes, step, step, and no thank you. This flag stays up. Thank you very much. So if ever there's somebody who deserves passage to the Undying Lands now, it's Halbarad the Undying, just for the sheer amount of winning fights he just pulled out of the ether. He had no right to still be alive on the tabletop, at least for as long as he was. He did eventually fall because he got a bit too big for his boots and thought, I'll try and take out the enemy's flag and keep my flag up, and then at which point that's when he fell down, I think. So, but oh my days, there were so many sixes rolled on the Grey Company side just to beat back Orcs. And like, if they hadn't rolled as well as they had, if the combination of the might points, the 2 attacks, and the banner isn't there in that list, this army just crumbles in front of something like this. They can't deal with magic. They can deal with a few rounds of magic, but once the will points are gone, then they're sitting ducks for any spells. So I probably could have used them a little bit better, but also I think at the point at which it mattered, Aragorn had used them 3 to deal with 2 transfixes and immobilize already. He was out of might. There's only so much you can do when you've got no will points left and facing down a spirit army. But again, like the game was technically Ben's after Aragorn died, but we played it out because it was super fun, and I wanted to make sure that we both got a game as much as we could for the last game, and it was such an enjoyable way to round off an amazing weekend of games. Ben, you played it so well. I'm so glad that I was able to give you a game, because I appreciate you could have quite easily have steamrolled me, but thank you for letting me give you a game and giving me a game in return. It was the second major loss for the Grey Company of the weekend, but super thoroughly enjoyable. Your army looked incredible as well. I always struggle with Angmar composition because I don't quite know how brutish you go, how spirit-based you go. I always kind of struggle with that side of things, so you give me some real good food for thought in regard to what to take for a future Angmar army if I ever get around to doing that. Again, like playing the game of this tease a really cool army idea in front of Tom and watch him chomp at the bit, because I've got so many ideas now for armies that I just do not have the time to do at the moment. But we will get around to it eventually. But thank you so much, Ben, for an amazing Game 5. You were a great opponent, super good sport about all the winning combats that Rangers were getting. I thoroughly enjoyed every part of our game. So thank you for rounding off 5 amazing games of Middle-earth strategy battle game for the Throne of Skulls. And once again, I cannot wait for the opportunity to roll dice with you in a future tournament or at a future event, just anywhere. Like any of my opponents ever want to have a game, or ever in like the vicinity to be like, oh hi, Mithril, you do battle reports, are you interested? Like, any one of my opponents is more than welcome to come down, film a bat rep. I am dying to play games with all of you again. 5 amazing games of Middle-earth over 2 phenomenal days. And the Grey Company did finish the event on 2 major wins, 1 minor win, and 2 major losses. So they're a lot better than I thought they were going to be honest. I had hope for 1 game, 1 win, and even then I wasn't really that bothered. I just wanted 5 amazing games, and I got what I wished for. So as far as I'm concerned, I'd won all of my games just on that merit, because I had 5 amazing games. I hope I gave my opponents 5 amazing games, and that was the main goal for the weekend. But that was the last game of the event. Once again, thank you so much, Ben, for an amazing Game 5. So there we have it, a brief review of all 5 of my phenomenal games that I was able to have over the weekend. I want to say a massive thank you to all 5 of my opponents. You all played amazing games. You were all a genuine pleasure to roll dice with. I cannot wait until I get the chance to play each and every one of you again, either at future events or for battle reports or just at gaming clubs. Whenever we get the chance to, I would love the chance to roll dice with each and every one of you again. Thank you guys so much. So the weekend draws to a close. The award ceremony is conducted. We had the first of the what I imagine is going to be the first of many costume contests. This time round, we had a dwarf miner, an elf warrior, Tom Bombadil, and the Arkenstone. And I believe Damien's Arkenstone won the first costume contest, and it's a costume which is going to stick in my mind for a long time, and it's certainly a voice that's going to stick in my brain for a very long time. It's still every now and then just passes through the cerebral cortex and haunts me a little bit. It was amazing, but also quite terrifying. No, congratulations, Damien, for winning the first costume contest. Your costumes are always on point, massively so, and always in theme with your board. Just amazing, brilliant work all round. Huge congratulations to everyone who got Best Army nominations. I was very fortunate enough to be one of the recipients of a nomination. And congratulations to the 3 that won the first, second and third trophies there. The level of hobby on display, like I said in the intro, at this event and at every event is just through the roof. I don't know how people are able to up the standard every year. Surely you think at some point you reach that ceiling, but everyone just always surpasses every year. It's amazing to see what everyone comes up with and see different army compositions, different display boards, different ways of painting, different methodologies and mentalities behind how they paint their models. It's always such a pleasure to see, and everyone's work is always... I don't know how the judges go about picking their best army nominees, because if it was me, I would have a damn hard time doing it. But everyone should be super proud of everything they brought at the event. But congratulations to all the best army nominees and the winners of the best armies there. I was super fortunate enough not only to come away with the best army nominee, I came home with the most sporting trophy, and I'm still in shock over this. But not only did we get most sporting and best army nomination, but we also got first place trophy. We won Throne of Skulls 2022, and that still is not sinking into my head. I have got no idea how, why. I genuinely, like, when they called my name, I was in shock, to the point I was even looking around the hall, thinking there's another Tom Thorpe somewhere in the hall that I had not seen or not even recognised. You know, I'm genuinely still in shock. And what makes it even lovelier for me, I'm losing my voice a little bit, but choking up a little bit as well. But like, because the way that Throne of Skulls is scored, priority is given to the best opponent votes and the best army votes, and I think one of the event staff told me that I managed to get 5 out of 5 best army votes, and that's what tipped me into first place. And that is what makes this just ridiculously special for me. Like the fact that all 5 of my opponents have turned around and said, I really enjoyed that game with Tom. He gave me a good game. I had great fun. That's literally what I do this hobby for, and that's literally how I try and play every single one of my games, because I just want everyone to get a good time out of the games that I can give. And genuinely, like, I was in shock. I'm so in shock still. I don't even have the words. I really don't, and I'm trying not to get too choked up because it really is just I don't have the words. I really don't. I cannot thank you guys enough. Seriously, all 5 of my opponents, Alex, Adam, John, Ben, Tim, thank you guys so much. I'm so happy and so glad that I was able to give you a game that you enjoyed, and that you enjoyed enough to very graciously and very kindly put me as one of your favorite gamer votes. I don't deserve it, but I'm so grateful, and just thank you all so much. You guys make every one of these events, everybody, not just the people that I play, but everybody there, everyone we come up with, everyone we see, old friends, new friends, people we haven't seen for a good long while, people that we meet that come, maybe this is their first event, whatever, just everyone there makes these events. And it's genuinely like the one event that I look forward to the most in a year. And it's always over too quickly. It's always, always zooms past at a rate of knots, so much so that I don't even get a chance necessarily to savour and enjoy some of the elements of it. The pub quiz is one of the particular fun things that happens on the Saturday evening. That's over too quickly. It just zooms past, and before I know it, I'm back in Surrey, and I'm sitting there going, did that actually happen? But seriously, this means the absolute world. Thank you so much. And like everybody who's been so genuinely supportive and so genuinely like lovely in their congratulations and all their words, like I to the point where I can't really read any more of the comments, because everyone's just so lovely about it. And you guys as a community and as friends, you mean the absolute world to me, right? Like I do this the YouTubing, the model painting and whatnot, because it's my way of trying to give back a little bit to a community that I've had the privilege of being involved in for a big part of my life, and it really does mean the world. And the fact that everyone in this community is always so lovely, so welcoming, so funny, and is always just I don't have the words. I really don't. Like, I cannot ask for a better community to be part of than the one that we have for Middle Earth. And the fact that you can turn up at an event and you can talk to anybody, you can turn around to anybody maybe you haven't seen for 3, 4, 5 years, you know, and have a conversation and strike up that conversation, and as if nothing has changed. Like, it's genuinely like the best experience. And if anyone is at all on the fence about going to a Throne of Skulls or not sure if they will enjoy it, like, take it from me, it was the best event you will ever go to. They are so much fun. They are played in the spirit of which the game is meant to be played, and you'll have 5 of the best games in Middle Earth that you will have at one of these events. And I'm saying this at the risk of like upping the wait list so that maybe I won't get a ticket next year, because I'm hoping I will. But yeah, if anyone is ever in any doubt as to whether or not these are worth going to, then like, just try it and you'll see that it really is like the best event you could possibly want to go to. Huge congratulations to everybody who came away with the other podium places. Massive congratulations to the Best Army nominees and the first, second, third there. I remember, Phil, I think you won it, didn't you, with your Erebor Reclaimed Hobbit board. But the level of hobby, it was just incredible. There were Necromancer boards, there was a Rohan board that looked incredible. There was I think it was a Harad board, all built up on various tiers and Bjornings and Iron Hills and everything. Like, the level of hobby was incredible. If you get the chance, go and have a look on the Warhammer World Facebook page. You'll see all the pictures from the event there. Have a look over them, because the level of hobby was incredible. I generally have no idea how the judges pick them, because I wouldn't be able to do it myself. Just no, I'd want everyone to get a nomination, because everyone deserves one. Huge congratulations to the inaugural winner of the costume contest, Damien. The Arkenstein was a genuine pleasure to meet, and as haunting and terrifying as it might have been, was just how you managed to keep that up over the course of the weekend. I have no idea. And finally, from the bottom of my heart, for everybody that came up with, everyone that we saw there, everyone that we meet up regularly there, everyone that was there that maybe isn't there before, and everyone that I got a chance to this weekend, thank you from the bottom of my heart for what's been an amazing weekend. I cannot wait for the next one. I would spend an hour gushing about each of my opponents for each of their games, because each one was genuinely phenomenal. But for the sake of not giving you a 5-hour video, we've had to just give you the highlights. And but I hope everyone has had an amazing weekend. Hope everyone's getting over the tournament blues, and I hope everyone's getting their hobby gears, spinning for the next tournament. But until then, all I can say is thank you all so much. This has been our Throne of Skulls wrap up for 2022, and until next time, we will see you in the next video. Happy hobbying, guys. Thank you all so much. Love you all, and we'll see you soon. Bye, guys. Thank you. Bye.